Can't read, can you? The sign says right here, white residents only. That's not you. Get lost. Officer Vance Harlan didn't wait for an answer. He ripped the newspaper from Director Isaiah Whitaker's hands and threw it in his face, then grabbed the older man's collar and slammed him back against the stone bench. 80 people watched in stunned silence. A young mother covered her daughter's eyes, but it was already too late. The little girl was crying, her small voice breaking with fear and confusion. Harlan pulled out his handcuffs, the metal catching the light. Last warning. Move, or you're going in cuffs. Director Whitaker stayed perfectly calm, his voice steady and measured. Officer, I'm just waiting for my wife. She'll be here any moment. I don't care if you're waiting for the president himself. Harlan snapped. Move, or you're going in cuffs. Whitaker didn't move. Harlan's hand tightened around the metal. What the officer didn't know, what he couldn't possibly know, was that he had just put his hands on the wrong man, the one man he should never have touched. Some mistakes don't give second chances. This was the moment everything would change. Director Isaiah Whitaker was just a man sitting on a bench, or so Officer Vance Harlan thought when he first spotted him. Another black man where he didn't belong, an easy target, a quick fix, another day keeping the park clean. Harlan had no idea he was about to make the worst mistake any cop could make. The park was peaceful that afternoon, families enjoying the golden hour. Children laughed on the swings, joggers moved along the paths, families gathered at picnic tables. Normal, peaceful. Whitaker had walked in wearing a gray vest and slacks, waiting for his wife Lena and granddaughter Maya to finish getting ice cream down the street. He sat on the old stone bench near the playground, the one with the faded carving that read, "White residents only." He opened his newspaper. The headline about FBI police reform initiatives stared back at him with quiet irony. He didn't smile. He simply read. Above him, a security camera swiveled and focused on his face. Facial recognition activated. Within seconds, the system identified him. Director Isaiah Whitaker, FBI Director Priority Alpha. An alert fired across federal networks reaching Washington, D.C. Deputy Director Rachel Monroe's phone lit up. She read the alert twice, then grabbed her office line. Tactical team on standby. Director Whitaker is in the park off duty. Monitor closely. Don't engage unless critical. 3 black SUVs left FBI headquarters. Lights off, sirens silent, racing toward the scene. Whitaker's phone buzzed in his pocket. He didn't check it. He already knew what it said. 30 meters away, Officer Vance Harlan stared at Whitaker with that look every black man knows too well. The look that says you don't belong here. Harlan keyed his radio. Dispatch, Harlan. Man at the memorial bench, checking it out. Captain Bryce Keller responded. Your call. Keep it clean. Harlan walked toward the bench, his shadow falling over Whitaker as he stopped in front of him. You need to move. Now. Whitaker looked up, his expression calm. Officer, is there a problem? Harlan's hand dropped to his handcuffs. Yeah, you're the problem. This is a family area. You're making people uncomfortable. Move now. I'm just waiting for my wife, Whitaker replied, voice even. I'm not bothering anyone. I don't care who you're waiting for. Harlan stepped closer. Can't you read? White residents only. Right there on your bench. A young mother nearby watched with alarm. Officer, he's not doing anything wrong. Harlan whipped around. Ma'am, this is police business. Step back unless you want to be part of this. She backed away, phone already in hand. The crowd began to gather. Joggers stopped. Parents pulled their children close. Everyone sensed this was about to get worse. Last warning, Harlan said, turning back. Get up, or I move you. Whitaker stood slowly, hands visible. Officer, I'm happy to move if that's what you want. But Harlan wasn't interested in cooperation. He grabbed the newspaper and ripped it in half. throwing the pieces in Whitaker's face. Pages scattered across the grass, the reform headline landing in the dirt. "I'm not here for explanations," Harlan growled. "People like you think you can sit anywhere. Not here. Not today." 80 people were watching now. A little girl, no more than 5, started crying. "Mommy, why is he being so mean?" Her mother covered her eyes, tears streaming down her own face. "Shh, baby." Whitaker raised his hands higher. "Officer, I'm not resisting." Harlan shoved him hard with both hands. Whitaker stumbled backward, catching himself on the bench. The crowd gasped. Captain Bryce Keller arrived then, strolling up with the confidence of a man who had done this before. "What's the situation, Harlan?" "Subject refusing to comply, no ID, suspicious behavior." Whitaker tried to reason. "Captain, I was simply sitting on a public bench." "I don't care," Keller said. He looked at Harlan and nodded. "Cuff him. Sorted at the station." The crowd erupted. "He didn't do anything! This is wrong! Record this!" Phones were everywhere, at least 40 of them, all pointed, all capturing. Harlan grabbed Whitaker's arm and yanked it behind his back. "Hands behind your back!" Whitaker was already complying. The handcuffs clicked on tight, biting into his wrists. Then Harlan did something the park would never forget. He put his hand on Whitaker's head and shoved him down, forcing him to his knees on the grass. Dirt stained his slacks. "Should have moved when I told you," Harlan muttered. Nearby, off-duty officer Trevor Hale froze, his son calling for the frisbee. Hale stared at the man on the ground. He knew that face. It was important, but in the moment he couldn't place it. His son tugged harder, and Hale forced himself to turn away. Near the swings, Judge Elias Hale was filming his daughter playing. His camera catching the bench in the background in perfect 4K, every detail clear. A silver Mercedes slowed. Councilman Trent Caldwell looked out, saw the cops and the man in cuffs. He rolled down his window. "Officers, everything under control." Keller straightened. "Yes, sir, Councilman. Routine trespassing." Caldwell looked at Whitaker on the ground, something flickering in his eyes. Recognition, perhaps, but he pushed it down. "Good work. Keep our park safe." Window up, gone. Harlan hauled Whitaker to his feet and walked him toward the patrol car. The crowd parted, still recording. The little girl broke free and ran forward. "Mommy, is that man bad?" Her mother knelt, tears streaming. "No, baby, he's not bad. He's not bad at all." Harlan shoved Whitaker toward the car. They reached it. Harlan yanked the door open, put his hand on Whitaker's head, and shoved down hard. Whitaker's head hit the door frame with a thud. "Watch your head, buddy." Harlan smirked. The door slammed shut. Whitaker sat in the back, cuffed, perfectly calm, like he had expected this all along. Keller climbed into the passenger seat. Harlan got behind the wheel. The engine started. In the crowd, a woman was already calling a lawyer. A man was texting journalists. Officer Trevor Hale, walking to his car with his son, stopped dead. He had just remembered. 7 years ago, FBI Director Isaiah Whitaker, the man who had saved his career. Now, here he was in the back of Harlan's car in handcuffs. "Oh my God," Hale whispered. His hand went to his pocket where he carried his off-duty body cam. He turned it on and aimed it at the patrol car, recording everything. Inside the car, Harlan glanced in the rearview mirror. "Comfortable back there? Not used to riding in police cars, are you?" Whitaker didn't answer, just stared ahead, breathing steady. Keller shifted. "Any ID on him?" "Nothing," Harlan said. "No wallet, no phone, nothing." Oh. Suspicious as hell. What they didn't know was that Whitaker's phone was in his vest pocket. He had felt it buzz, chosen not to mention it. He was waiting. Harlan pulled onto the road. "Dispatch, this is Harlan. One in custody heading to station. Trespassing, disorderly conduct, resisting arrest." The radio crackled. "Copy that, Harlan. Booking ready." What Harlan didn't hear was the slight hesitation in the dispatcher's voice, the confusion. Minutes earlier, she had received a call from someone claiming to be FBI asking about a Director Whitaker. She had dismissed it as a prank. Now, she wasn't so sure. The patrol car drove away from the park, away from the witnesses, away from the cameras. But the evidence was already spreading, already uploaded, already going viral. Harlan had no idea his career had just ended in that park. He had no idea that federal vehicles were already racing toward them. He had no idea that the man in his back seat was about to destroy everything he had ever worked for. He was still smiling when he pulled into the station parking lot. Still smiling when he opened the back door and yanked Whitaker out. Still smiling when he walked him through the front entrance, past the booking desk, past officers who glanced up and saw nothing unusual. Just another arrest. Just another day. Except it wasn't. Officer Trevor Hale walked into the station later, still thinking about the man at the park. When he spotted Harlan grinning at the coffee machine like he had just won Officer of the Year, Hale's blood ran cold. "Harlan, heard you brought someone in from the park," Hale said, grabbing a cup for cover. Harlan's chest puffed out. "Yeah, troublemaker at the memorial bench. Captain and I handled it. Guy's in holding where he belongs." Hale's blood went cold. "I'll check the booking log." He walked to holding, and when he looked through the cell window and saw the man sitting there with eyes closed and hands folded, every memory clicked into place at once. FBI Director Isaiah Whitaker, 7 years ago, the man who had saved Hale's career. The memory slammed into him. 25-year-old Hale, handcuffed in an interrogation room, a corrupt sergeant forcing him to sign a confession for evidence he had never touched. His career about to die before it started. Then the door had opened, and this calm man in an FBI vest had said 5 words. "I'm taking this case now." Whitaker had spent 3 days investigating, found the real culprit, cleared Hale completely. Before leaving, he had said words Hale had carried ever since. "Integrity isn't convenient, officer. It's necessary. When you see something wrong, you speak up, even when it costs everything. Remember that." Hale had remembered. For 7 years. And now that man was in a cell, because Harlan and Keller had arrested the FBI director. "Oh my God," Hale whispered, his hand going to his pocket where his off-duty body cam had been recording since the park. He needed backup. He found Officer Sophia Reyes at her desk, looking like she had been waiting for someone to confirm her suspicions. "Reyes, evidence room now." When they were alone, Hale didn't waste time. "That man they arrested?" "FBI Director Isaiah Whitaker. My old boss, the man who saved my career 7 years ago." Reyes's eyes went wide. "Does Keller know?" Keller saw the fingerprint match and slammed the laptop shut. Claimed malfunction. "I need Harlan's body cam footage, all of it." Reyes was already at the computer, pulling up the footage from the park. What they saw made them sick. Harlan's aggression. The newspaper ripped and thrown. The shove. Whitaker forced to his knees. The little girl crying, all in high definition. Harlan's voice echoed, "You people always push boundaries." "Federal civil rights violation," Reyes said quietly. "Multiple counts." Hale checked the system logs. "Reyes, look." Keller manually dismissed the FBI alert. "Priority Alpha. Automatic DOJ notification." Keller shut it down. Ordered Santos to clear it. Obstruction of justice. Conspiracy. He opened another folder. Password protected. But he knew the back door. The complaints archive. The folder opened. 23 complaint files, all dismissed, all buried by Keller, all weighted. The first file, from months ago. Jamal Freeman. Black male, 34, cooperative. Harlan orders trunk open. Freeman asks for probable cause. Harlan gets aggressive. Camera shows Harlan's hand going to his pocket. Then the trunk, cocaine that wasn't there seconds before. Freeman screaming, "That's not mine!" Harlan cuffs him, smiling. Notes. Freeman spent 8 months in jail before charges dropped. Lost his job. Lost custody of his daughter. Reyes covered her mouth. He planted it. Second file. Aisha Washington. Outside an elementary school, waiting for her kids. Harlan says she's loitering. She explains she's picking up her children. He cuffs her in front of the school. Her kids screaming, "Mommy!" Teachers intervening. Notes: children now have anxiety disorders. Therapy, twice weekly. She lost a custody battle. Third file. Carlos Rodriguez, Latino male, 38. Detained for matching a description. Video shows Rodriguez compliant, hands visible. Harlan's baton comes down once, twice, 3 times. Rodriguez cuffed, defenseless. Beating continues. Medical report: ruptured kidney, $47,000 in bills, permanent damage. Keller's report: justified force, 23 cases, 23 destroyed lives, all buried. "This is systematic," Reyes said, shaking. Keller trained Harlan, protected him, built a culture of abuse. Hale checked something else. "Reyes, look at the cameras. Security monitors show every camera with a small red light." "What am I seeing?" "Those aren't our indicators. Ours show green." Hale pulled up access logs. "Someone accessed our cameras remotely. Federal level. Activated hours before Whitaker was arrested. Understanding hit them." "This was a trap," Reyes said. "Whitaker knew. The FBI's been watching everything." Hale checked timestamps. "The FBI's been inside our system for hours. Seen everything. Keller suppressing alerts, Harlan's violations, us right now." "Us right. What do we do?" Hale pulled out a USB drive. "Document everything, every case, every victim. When this explodes, Keller will bury what he can. We need backups." He handed Reyes a second drive. "You take one, I take one. Insurance." Reyes nodded. "If they find out, then we go down doing right." Hale's mind echoed with Whitaker's voice. "Integrity isn't convenient, it's necessary." Files finished copying. Hale checked dispatch. 6 missed calls from Federal Liaison, all ignored by Keller. Reyes looked at the monitors. Those red lights. They're not calling anymore. They're here. Watching, waiting. Hale slipped the USB next to his body cam. Keller thought he was covering up. He was actually adding charges. Footsteps outside. Both froze. They passed. "We can't stop this," Reyes whispered. Hale shook his head. "No, but we can be on the right side when it hits." They left separately. Hale walked past Whitaker's cell. Whitaker's eyes opened, looking directly at him. Whitaker gave the smallest nod. Hale nodded back, touched his pocket, and walked away. Meanwhile, at FBI headquarters, Deputy Director Rachel Monroe's phone lit up with an alert that made her drop her coffee. The liquid spread across her desk as she read words that shouldn't have been possible. "Director Whitaker flagged in custody. Arlington PD alert suppressed by local authority." She was on her feet instantly, grabbing her office phone while pulling up Arlington PD's live camera feeds. If someone had arrested the FBI director and tried to hide it, this wasn't a mistake. This was a federal incident about to explode across every news channel in America. The camera feeds loaded. There was Whitaker, sitting calmly in a holding cell, like he was waiting for a bus instead of locked up by cops who had no idea what they had triggered. Monroe dialed the Attorney General. He picked up on the second ring. "Sir, we have a situation. Director Whitaker is in custody at Arlington PD. Off-duty arrest. They suppressed federal alerts. We need to move." Silence. Then the AG's voice, cold and precise. "Mobilize, tactical, full team, quiet approach. No sirens, no lights, no warning. I want them to see federal vehicles and realize it's over. How fast can you get there?" Monroe was already moving. 12 minutes. Then go. I'm authorizing extraction. If Whitaker is in danger, pull him out. If not, let it play out how he wants. I guarantee he's got a plan. 3 black SUVs left FBI headquarters minutes later. Engines quiet, lights dark. 2 U.S. Marshals' vehicles joined at the Arlington border. Together, they moved like sharks through water, representing federal authority about to crush a small station that had arrested the wrong man. Monroe was in the lead vehicle. She made one more call, directly to Arlington PD. A cheerful receptionist answered, "Arlington Police Department. How may I help you?" "FBI Deputy Director Rachel Monroe. Connect me to Captain Bryce Keller, Federal Emergency." The cheerfulness died. "Ma'am, Captain Keller is in an interview and cannot." Monroe cut her off. "This is not a request. You have 30 seconds to connect me, or federal agents will be at your desk charging you with obstruction. Transfer me now." Click. Hold. Click. Keller's voice, irritated. "Captain Keller, what's this about?" Monroe didn't ease in. "Captain Keller, FBI Deputy Director Rachel Monroe. You have FBI Director Isaiah Whitaker in custody. You arrested a federal official and suppressed priority alpha alerts. You have minutes to release him, or I arrive with 40 agents and end your career. Understand?" She heard Keller's breathing change. "Deputy Director, there's been a misunderstanding. We arrested a suspect for trespassing, and the system identified him as FBI Director, and you suppressed the alert. We have the logs, Captain. We have everything. Minutes, the clock's ticking." Keller's voice got desperate. "If we release him without charges, it looks like we knew." "You did know. You saw the screen. You slammed the laptop. Santos witnessed it. Harlan witnessed it. The server logged it. You knew exactly who he was. Use the time wisely." She hung up. Keller stared at the dead phone. Councilman Trent Caldwell walked in, face pale. He had been listening at the door. "Keller, was that the FBI about the man in holding?" Keller looked at Caldwell with eyes that had accepted defeat. "That man we arrested. He's the FBI Director. Federal agents are minutes away." Caldwell's legs gave out. He dropped into a chair. "You knew when?" "Fingerprint scanner, priority alpha. I thought I could—" "You thought you could hide it," Caldwell finished. "Bury a federal alert. Arrest the FBI Director and nobody would notice." 10 seconds of silence. "What do we do?" Caldwell asked. Keller stared at nothing. "If we release him, we admit we knew. If we keep him and the FBI comes, it's worse." Caldwell leaned forward. "Can we make a deal? Explain it was a mistake." "They don't want deals. They want us in handcuffs." Outside, the SUVs were getting closer. Monroe watched live feeds on her tablet. Keller and Caldwell panicking while Whitaker sat in his cell, calm. Keller and Caldwell sprinted to the holding cell like the building was on fire. Harlan had never seen his captain look this terrified, this desperate, this close to complete breakdown. "What's happening?" Harlan asked. But Keller was already yanking Whitaker from the cell. No explanation, just pure panic that made Harlan's stomach drop. Because captains don't panic unless something has gone catastrophically wrong. They dragged Whitaker into the interrogation room and threw him into the chair. Whitaker sat calmly, hands cuffed in front now. A small mercy Keller granted, because he was desperately trying to de-escalate what was already beyond control. Keller sat across from him, trying to sound official. "Sir, there's been confusion about your identity. If you cooperate, we can resolve this quickly." Whitaker looked at Keller with eyes that knew exactly how this ended. "Cooperate. I've been cooperative while you violated my rights, suppressed federal alerts, and committed felonies that will destroy you." Harlan's feeling sick now. "Captain, what's he—" Keller cut him off with a look. "Harlan, quiet." Whitaker's voice filled the room like thunder. "Officer Harlan wants to know what I'm talking about. You ripped a newspaper from my hands and threw it in my face. You shoved me against a bench, hard enough to bruise. You forced me to my knees in front of 80 witnesses, including a 5-year-old girl who cried and asked her mother why you were being so mean. That's deprivation of rights under color of law. Federal civil rights violations, all on camera, all career-ending." Harlan went white. actually losing all color. He staggered backward, grabbing the wall because his legs wouldn't hold him anymore. Caldwell stepped forward with his politician voice. "Gentlemen, let's take a breath. I'm sure we can reach an understanding." Whitaker's eyes shifted to Caldwell, and the councilman's charm died instantly. "Councilman Caldwell, city oversight meetings. You asked 17 very specific questions about FBI resources over 8 months. I answered every one. You smiled at me, thought you were being careful. I remember all 17 because while I answered your questions, I was investigating you, 89 million in fraudulent contracts, wire fraud, money laundering, racketeering, every meeting, every smile. I was documenting your desperation to know how much we knew. Now, I can tell you exactly how much. Everything." The room went silent except for Caldwell's breathing, which sounded like drowning. Keller was begging now. "Please, we can make this disappear. No charges. Just sign a release. We all walk away." Whitaker laughed cold. "Make this disappear? This was documented by 47 cameras, 80 witnesses, and live-streamed to FBI headquarters. You can't erase federal crimes because you're scared." Harlan found his voice, broken. "You're actually FBI." Whitaker stood, and even cuffed, he owned the room. "In minutes, Officer Harlan. You'll wish you'd asked my name before touching me. In moments, you'll wish you'd chosen a different career. Soon you'll hear sirens, and then you'll be wearing these handcuffs. There's nothing you can do to stop it." Harlan's knees buckled. He slid down the wall. Keller tried one last desperate play. "We didn't know." Whitaker's voice cut like a blade. "You did know. At the moment the screen said FBI Director, you slammed the laptop shut. Santos witnessed it. Harlan witnessed it. The server logged it. You knew exactly who he was and arrested me anyway. That's not ignorance. That's federal conspiracy." Caldwell fumbled for his phone with shaking hands. No signal. The screen mocked him. No service. Whitaker watched him with something almost like pity. "Looking for your judges, Councilman. Your political connections, your favors. None of them can help you now. You tried to bury justice, but justice doesn't bury, it explodes." That's when they all heard it. Sirens, multiple vehicles, getting closer. Keller ran to the small window, looked out, and what he saw made his legs give out completely. He had to grab the window frame to stay standing. 3 black FBI SUVs and 2 U.S. Marshals vehicles were pulling into the parking lot with military precision. Harlan's voice was barely a whisper. "Captain, what do we do?" Keller couldn't answer. He could only stare at the end of everything he had ever worked for. The interrogation room door exploded open with a bang that sounded like judgment itself. Deputy Director Rachel Monroe walked in with 6 FBI agents behind her, all in tactical vests, all armed, all looking at Harlan, Keller, and Caldwell, like they were already convicted. Monroe's voice was absolute zero. "Nobody move." She walked straight to Whitaker without wasting a second on pleasantries. An agent immediately stepped forward with keys and unlocked the handcuffs with a click that sounded like freedom arriving exactly on schedule. "Director Whitaker, are you injured?" Monroe asked, her voice professional, but edged with genuine concern. Whitaker held up his wrists where the metal had left angry red marks already darkening into bruises. "Minor contusions, nothing that won't heal. I'll be fine, Deputy Director." Harlan, Keller, and Caldwell stood frozen against the wall, like criminals waiting for sentencing while federal agents watched their every movement. Keller's face suddenly flashed with something that might have been hope. The desperate delusion of a drowning man who thinks he sees a rescue boat. "Deputy Director Monroe, if we could just take a moment to explain the situation properly. There was clearly a significant misunderstanding about this individual's identity and position." Monroe cut him off without even looking in his direction. "Save every word for your attorney, Captain Keller. You're going to need them. She turned back to Whitaker. "Director, your wife is waiting outside. She's been extremely worried. Take whatever time you need and we'll handle the processing from here." Whitaker nodded once. "All business now instead of prisoner. My personal belongings were confiscated during the booking process. I'll need my phone and wallet returned immediately." Harlan pulled Whitaker's phone from his pocket with hands that wouldn't stop trembling. Everyone in that room knew that keeping it on his person instead of logging it into evidence was just one more violation on a list already long enough to destroy him. "Here, sir. I was going to properly document it in the system. I just hadn't gotten around to it yet." "Keep your excuses," Whitaker said, taking his belongings and walking out of the interrogation room without another glance at the three men who had thought they could arrest the FBI director and escape consequences. Every officer in the station stopped and watched him pass, because word had spread like wildfire. They had arrested the director, actual FBI director, and now federal agents were everywhere, and careers were ending in real time. Officer Trevor Hale and Officer Sophia Reyes stood near reception. When Whitaker passed, Hale gave the smallest nod that said, "I did what you taught me. I chose integrity." Whitaker returned it and kept walking toward sunlight and freedom. Outside, Lena Whitaker ran from their car and met him in an embrace that was tight enough to hurt and necessary enough not to care. "Are you okay?" she asked against her shoulder. "I'm fine. Everything went exactly as planned." Lena pulled back, worry shifting to exasperation. "This isn't over, is it?" Whitaker glanced at the station where federal agents moved through windows like an occupying force. "No, not even close." In the car, Whitaker checked his phone and found Monroe's text. "Package delivered. Green light." He typed back, "Green light. Execute Phase 4. Inside the station, Keller stared at his computer screen, where a notification had just appeared. "FBI remote access active. Hours of monitoring." Harlan was at the window, cigarette shaking in his hand. Caldwell whispered, "Maybe it's over." Harlan wanted to believe it, but his hands wouldn't stop shaking. They hadn't dodged anything. They had walked deeper into the trap. Minutes later, Director Isaiah Whitaker walked back into Arlington PD wearing a tailored suit with his FBI badge clipped to his belt. Officers stepped backward, creating a path like they were witnessing judgment walking through their station. Rachel Monroe met him at the entrance. "Director, conference room. Attorney General Victor Lang is here. He wants to handle this personally." The doors opened to Lang at a long table with Harlan, Keller, and Caldwell on one side looking condemned. Federal agents lined the walls. Lang's voice carried absolute authority. "I'm Attorney General Victor Lang. We're not here to negotiate. We're here to show you what you've done and what happens next." Whitaker sat across from the three men. Monroe connected her laptop to the wall screen. "Riverside Park appears, multiple angles," she announced. "Evidence Package 1, 12 security cameras, 43 civilian phones, 1 retired judge's recording, all capturing the same federal crime." Video played, Harlan approaching Whitaker with aggression. Newspaper ripped, thrown in his face. 80 witnesses gasping, the 5-year-old crying, asking why the policeman was so mean. Audio clear. "You people think you own everything." Facial recognition had identified Director Whitaker minutes before Harlan made contact. Red alert, Priority Alpha, notified DOJ immediately. Screen shifted to booking footage. Computer flashing FBI Director. Keller's face registering recognition. Hand slamming laptop shut hard enough to make Officer Miguel Santos flinch. Captain Keller manually suppressed Priority Alpha Federal alert. Ordered Santos to clear it. Told Harlan it was a malfunction. That's obstruction of justice, conspiracy, federal felonies with mandatory minimums. Harlan trembled violently. "I didn't know what it said. Captain told me system glitch. I was following superior officer's orders." Whitaker's voice cut like a blade. "You saw that screen, Harlan. Read those words. FBI Director. You had a choice. Question the false explanation or blindly follow an order you knew was wrong. You chose corruption over courage. That choice costs 11 years in federal prison. Monroe brought up a spreadsheet. Caldwell made a sound like physical pain. Evidence Package 2, 18-month investigation, 273 documented incidents, 89 complaints systematically buried by Captain Keller. Racial profiling 340% above national average. A pattern so clear it can only be intentional, organized abuse of power. Lang's voice dropped, more personal now. Numbers are abstract. Statistics don't bleed. Let's discuss the actual human cost of what you three built together. The door opened. 4 people entered. Jamal Freeman, Aisha Washington, Carlos Rodriguez, and James Murphy. Harlan recognized Jamal instantly and went completely white. Whitaker spoke with precision. "Officer Harlan, I believe you remember Jamal Freeman." Jamal stepped forward, voice shaking with months of compressed rage. "You planted drugs in my vehicle. You looked in my eyes while I screamed that those drugs weren't mine. While I begged you to check the traffic cameras. While I told you about my 9-year-old daughter, who needed her father. You smiled. Actually smiled while destroying my entire life to meet your arrest quota. 8 months in jail. Lost my job as a senior accountant. Lost custody of my daughter in the divorce that followed. All for a statistic on your performance review." Harlan couldn't look at him. He stared at the table while his crimes were enumerated. Aisha spoke next, tears streaming but voice steady. "You handcuffed me in front of my children at their elementary school. In front of teachers, classmates, everyone in their world. My daughter was 6 when she watched you arrest her mother for nothing except existing while black near a school. She's 8 now. Nightmares 3 times a week. Therapy twice a week. Anxiety disorders that will probably mark her entire life. You traumatized a 6-year-old child for another arrest on your record." Carlos lifted his shirt, revealing a surgical scar across his abdomen. "Ruptured kidney from your baton, Harlan, while I was handcuffed, completely defenseless. 47,000 in medical bills that bankrupted my family. Permanent organ damage. Can't work construction anymore. Can't provide for my children like before." Captain Keller's report said, "Justified force, though your body cam clearly shows I never resisted, never fought back, never gave any reason except being Latino in your jurisdiction." James Murphy, Purple Heart visible on his jacket, spoke last. "I took enemy fire for this country. 3 combat tours. Came home with medals for valor and a permanent limp. You called me trash and thug. Threw me in a cell for 36 hours with 0 charges, 0 explanation, 0 respect for my service or sacrifice or basic human dignity. Treated a decorated veteran like garbage because Captain Keller created a culture where that cruelty wasn't just permitted, it was encouraged and rewarded." Lang let their testimonies hang heavy. "These 4 represent 23 victims we've identified so far. 23 lives damaged or destroyed, families shattered, futures stolen, children traumatized, all systematically buried by Keller, all enabled by Caldwell's influence, all executed by Harlan's willingness to follow illegal orders without hesitation." Monroe displayed final evidence. An email from Keller to Harlan, months old. Words so incriminating, Keller closed his eyes. "Handle the black ones rough. Arrest quotas matter more than complaints. Target high crime demographics and make visible examples. I'll handle any blowback." Whitaker's voice was emotionless. "That's not coded language. That's a direct, explicit written order to commit civil rights violations with an unambiguous promise of protection. That email alone convicts you both, Captain. That's your career and freedom ending in 112 words." Lang rose to full height. "Officer Vance Harlan, you're under arrest for deprivation of rights under color of law, federal civil rights violations, evidence tampering, false imprisonment, aggravated assault. Captain Bryce Keller, obstruction of justice, conspiracy to violate civil rights, systematic abuse of power, corruption, racketeering. Councilman Trent Caldwell, bribery, money laundering, wire fraud, conspiracy to obstruct justice. U.S. Marshals executed the arrests immediately. Handcuffs clicked onto wrists. The same sound Whitaker had heard earlier, except this time it represented justice working correctly. Consequences arriving for those who thought themselves untouchable. Harlan sobbed as metal bit into his skin. "Please, I'm sorry. Didn't mean for this, just following Captain Keller's orders." Jamal's voice cut through without mercy. "Sorry doesn't give back 8 months. Doesn't repair my daughter's trust. Doesn't undo the permanent damage you inflicted because you were too weak to question obviously illegal orders." Keller was silent as they cuffed him, staring at nothing, accepting total defeat. Caldwell tried desperately. "I have immunity. I'm an elected official." Lang's voice was ice. "Elected officials aren't above federal law, Councilman. You'll learn that over the next 23 years in federal prison." They were escorted out in handcuffs, while every officer watched in stunned silence, witnessing the end of one era and the uncertain beginning of whatever came next. Outside, the 80 park witnesses had gathered with news cameras and half of Arlington. When they saw Whitaker standing free with his badge visible while Harlan, Keller, and Caldwell were led out in federal chains, applause began. Tentative, then building to sustained thunder. Emma, the 5-year-old from the park, was on her mother's shoulders. She saw Whitaker and her voice rang clear. "Mommy, look! The nice man from the bench! He's okay! The mean policeman didn't win!" Her mother had tears streaming. "Yes, baby, you're right. The nice man is safe, and those bad policemen are going away for a very long time because what they did was wrong." Jamal, Aisha, Carlos, and James stood with Whitaker as cameras captured the moment. A reporter pushed forward. "Director Whitaker, what message does this send to police departments about accountability?" Whitaker's voice carried across the crowd with moral clarity. "Power without accountability is tyranny. Today, accountability won. Justice arrived. The system worked. But it shouldn't require 23 destroyed lives and an FBI director in handcuffs for federal justice to pay attention. That's what needs to change in every department, every city, every state. Make accountability automatic, not exceptional. Film everything. Speak up when you witness misconduct. Demand better from the people we give badges and guns and authority to, because that badge doesn't make someone right. Only their actions do. Only their integrity matters. Only their willingness to serve people rather than abuse power counts for anything." The crowd responded with sustained, meaningful applause, not just for Whitaker, but for Jamal, Aisha, Carlos, and James. For every victim finally heard, believed, vindicated. Federal transport doors closed on Harlan, Keller, and Caldwell with metallic finality. Justice properly served. Accountability arrived. Consequences delivered. Whitaker didn't smile, because this wasn't about victory or revenge. This was about a broken system being forced to fix itself, one painful but necessary arrest at a time. Cameras kept rolling. Witnesses kept watching. Evidence kept standing. Justice served in full public view of everyone who needed to see it. That mattered most. After the arrests, Arlington Police Department sat in stunned silence, waiting to see if the walls would hold or collapse in aftershocks. Whitaker stood in the lobby with Rachel Monroe, and every officer watched to see what happened next, because their command structure had just been arrested, and nobody knew who was in charge. Whitaker's voice cut through the uncertainty. "This department has a choice. Continue the culture Captain Keller built. Lies, buried complaints, abuse, or rebuild with integrity. Federal oversight is coming either way. The question is whether you embrace accountability or fight it." A senior officer stepped forward, face showing shame. Director Whitaker. Some of us tried reporting Harlan and Keller, but complaints disappeared. We were told to stop causing problems. Whitaker nodded. I know. We found 17 buried complaints from officers here about Harlan's force and Keller protecting him. 17 times people tried doing right and the system crushed them. That ends today. Monroe stepped forward with federal authority. Oversight begins immediately. 24 months minimum. New training, new accountability, new leadership. This department rebuilds from the ground up. Whitaker found Officer Trevor Hale near the back. Officer Hale, step forward. Hale walked through his fellow officers, heart pounding. 7 years on the force, never commanded more than a patrol shift. Officer Hale, 7 years ago, I pulled you from an interrogation where a corrupt sergeant tried destroying your career. I saw integrity that couldn't be broken. Today you proved I was right. You recognized me in that cell, and instead of staying silent, you gathered evidence, found allies, documented crimes. You chose truth over loyalty to corruption. That's leadership. Whitaker pulled a badge from his jacket. Not a patrol officer's badge, something with more weight. Effective immediately. You're acting captain of Arlington PD. Federal oversight will evaluate your performance over 6 months. If you demonstrate leadership, this department needs it. The acting disappears and you become the first black captain in 50 years of this department's history. The station erupted in applause. Not universal. Some faces showed resistance, but enough genuine respect that Hale knew he wouldn't lead alone. Hale took the badge, hands shaking. Sir, I won't let you down. I know, Whitaker said. 7 years ago, I told you integrity isn't convenient but necessary. You proved, you listened. Now teach that to everyone here. Make it culture, not exception. Officer Sophia Reyes stepped forward. Officer Reyes, you're promoted to detective in internal affairs immediately. Your job is making sure this never happens again. Find buried complaints. Investigate patterns. Hold people accountable before federal agents must. The air felt lighter, like a weight had lifted that nobody realized they had been carrying. But real justice wasn't just punishing the guilty, it was restoring the innocent. That happened in the conference room where Jamal Freeman, Aisha Washington, Carlos Rodriguez, and James Murphy sat with federal attorneys who handed them documents representing official acknowledgement that the government had failed them. Certificates of exoneration, the attorney explained, signed by the Attorney General. Federal level, no state can dispute. Records completely expunged. Arrests never happened legally. You're officially innocent. Jamal read his certificate, tears blurring the words. My daughter can see her daddy wasn't a criminal. The government admits they were wrong. Yes, Whitaker said gently. Your daughter knows with certainty her father is good. Wronged by people who abused power. The truth is official, permanent. Aisha held her certificate against her chest. My children have been in therapy for months. Can I show them this? Prove Mommy did nothing wrong? You can, and you should, Whitaker confirmed. Beyond exoneration, the DOJ provided compensation. $4.7 million, divided among the 4 of them. Covered medical expenses, lost wages, therapy, acknowledged suffering. Carlos read the compensation statement 3 times. Covers all medical bills. My daughter's college fund I drained for the kidney surgery. All of it. Plus, pain and suffering, lost earning capacity, permanent damage, Monroe confirmed. The federal government takes responsibility when systems fail. James Murphy, Purple Heart visible, spoke last. I served 3 tours. This acknowledgement matters more than the money. It says I was right, believing in the principles I fought for, even when the system betrayed them. You were right, Whitaker told him. You served with honor. You deserved honor in return. What happened was a system failure, not a reflection of your worth or service. Outside, reporters gathered for a press conference broadcasting this message to every community where people had been failed, by those sworn to protect. When Whitaker stepped to the microphone with the 4 victims beside him, he knew this moment was bigger than one corrupt department. This was about whether people could believe accountability existed. Today, justice was served, Whitaker began. 3 men who abused power are in federal custody facing decades in prison. 23 victims exonerated and compensated. A department rebuilding with integrity. But the real question isn't what happened today. It's what happens tomorrow. Will we make accountability automatic, not exceptional? Will we empower good officers like Captain Hale and Detective Reyes who chose courage over corruption? Will we believe victims when they come forward instead of waiting for undeniable evidence? The crowd listened silently. The bench where this started still sits in Riverside Park with words carved years ago. White residents only. We could remove it, bury history, or leave it as a reminder, not of who we were, but how far we must go. Because the only thing more dangerous than remembering ugly history is forgetting it and allowing repetition under different names with the same fundamental power abuse. He paused. Make accountability automatic. Film everything. Speak up. Always demand better, constantly, because badges don't grant righteousness. Actions do. Integrity does. Choosing to serve people instead of abusing power does. When authority forgets that truth, it's everyone's responsibility to remind them, loudly, publicly, and without apology, that in America, no one is above the law. No one. Ever. Applause followed for the idea that justice is possible, that accountability matters. 3 men going to federal prison. 23 victims being restored. 1 department rebuilding. Somewhere in America, someone watching gathered courage to film the next injustice, to document the next abuse, to speak up when speaking up is hardest and most necessary. That was the real victory, not arrests, not compensation, but courage spreading from this moment like ripples from a stone thrown into still water, reaching farther than anyone could see, but changing everything it touched. Justice served in full public view. That mattered most. In the years that followed, Arlington Police Department looked different because it was different. Glass walls, modern training, a command staff that understood the difference between power and service. Captain Trevor Hale stood with 12 new recruits at Riverside Family Park. Before sending them to the streets with badges and guns, he brought them here, the bench, same stone, same carved words from years past, but now a bronze plaque beside it. In memory of 23 victims, in honor of truth, justice delayed is justice denied. FBI Director Isaiah Whitaker. Years ago, Hale began. A good man sat on this bench, reading a newspaper, waiting for his family. 3 officers attacked him, humiliated him, forced him to his knees in front of 80 witnesses. Children cried, asking why the policeman was being so mean. A recruit asked, "What happened to those officers?" Officer Vance Harlan, 11 years federal prison. Captain Bryce Keller, 18 years. Councilman Trent Caldwell, 23 years, all still serving. Another recruit nodded. So justice worked, bad guys punished. Hale's expression shifted. That's not the lesson. The lesson is this bench is still here, and anyone can sit on it now. Anyone. Because 1 man refused to move when told he didn't belong. Because 80 people refused to look away. Because 2 officers chose integrity over corruption. That changed everything. Not arrests, not trials. Courage. Movement caught his eye. A black man in his 50s sat on the bench with a newspaper. Jamal Freeman, who had spent 8 months in jail for drugs Harlan had planted, now free, vindicated, sitting where he belonged. Jamal looked up, saw Hale, and smiled. Hale returned it. Silent acknowledgement between survivors. "Remember this bench," Hale told the recruits. "Your badge doesn't make you right. Your actions do, your integrity does, your willingness to serve people instead of wielding power. If you forget, remember 3 officers who forgot. Remember where they are now. Choose differently." Jamal read peacefully. Children played, families picnicked. The park belonged to everyone now. Director Whitaker's voice echoed in the wind. Power fears cameras, courage, and truth. The bench is still there. Justice is still coming. Be on the right side. If this story of justice and accountability moved you, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear that courage still matters, that speaking up still makes a difference, and that no one, absolutely no one, is above the law. Drop a comment below. Have you ever witnessed injustice and had to choose between speaking up or staying silent? What did you choose? Your story might inspire someone else to find their courage. And subscribe, because we bring you real stories about real people who refused to back down when power tried to silence truth. More stories of justice, accountability, and ordinary people doing extraordinary things are coming. Remember, the bench is everywhere. Sit where you belong, stand up for what's right, and never stop filming the truth. See you in the next story.